Nothing happens because you ignore the hidden center that sustains everything you try to create. Thoth knew this. That's why he never wrote this secret using ordinary words. He encoded it in symbols. He scattered it behind the veils so only the attentive would notice. There is a point within you that determines everything that vibrates and everything that returns. Most people don't see it. They chase after techniques, mantras, mental plans, but they overlook the core where destiny is truly shaped. There is something inside you that never shows up in a regular anatomy chart. A point that doesn't respond to logic, but to vibrational coherence. And when it's asleep, even the universe seems to ignore your requests. You feel it, a pause between wanting and receiving, a delay that doesn't come from time, but from frequency. It's not tiredness, it's not distraction. It's a disconnection from the silent epicenter that holds your existence together. While this center remains dormant, everything you try to create slips through your fingers, because the foundation, the source code, the inner altar, remains sealed. This forgotten center has a name. Science calls it the thymus gland, but that's just the physical shell of something much deeper. Among the initiates of Egypt, this point was seen as a vibrational seal, a link between the visible and the eternal. And that's exactly why Thoth never described it directly. He chose symbols, sacred proportions, veiled myths, because certain gateways only open when the seeker has already begun to remember. The thymus vibrates in tune with your truth. When you live out of alignment, it shrinks. When you live in coherence, it expands. And with that, something shifts, not just within you, but in everything that enters your field. This center is more than an organ. It is an inner oracle that feels before the mind can understand. It translates emotion into frequency, feeling into field, presence into reality. That's why, when this point is reactivated, there's no more noise between intention and manifestation. Energy flows clearly, answers appear, the right people show up, the body begins to pulse with purpose again. You don't have to force things anymore. You vibrate and the universe responds. This is the forgotten technology of the soul, a code hidden within you, covered for centuries under layers of noise, but never lost. And when you access this center, reality no longer needs to be controlled. It starts to cooperate. In ancient Egypt, no sacred teaching was given directly. Everything was hidden under symbols, metaphors, and living archetypes. Knowledge wasn't memorized, it was activated, and it only revealed itself to those who were vibrationally ready. Thoth, the scribe of the gods, wasn't just a master of writing. He was the guardian of the universal laws, the translator of the language between the visible and the invisible. They say his words could give shape to matter, but what few people realize is that most of his teachings weren't on the tablets, they were in the body. In the Book of the Dead, we find the scene of the weighing of the heart. At first glance, it looks like a spiritual judgment, but behind the myth lies a deep vibrational code. The heart of the initiate was weighed against the feather of truth, not as punishment, but as a measure of coherence. To the ancients, the true heart wasn't the physical organ, it was the subtle center of consciousness. The secret heart was the meeting place of the soul, vibrational memory, and destiny. This is where the thymus comes in, positioned between the physical heart and the center of the voice. It was seen by many traditions as the hidden link between emotion and expression, between inner truth and outer reality. Thoth did not leave anatomical maps. He left symbolic pathways, because this center, this inner altar, was never meant to be found through logic, but through vibration. One of the Hermetic principles says, "As within, so without." And that is exactly what the thymus represents, the direct reflection of inner coherence in the world you experience. When this center is in harmony, the universe feels in order. When it shuts down, everything outside you begins to fall apart. That's why the ancients guarded this secret so carefully, because it wasn't just knowledge, it was real power. For a long time, the thymus gland was seen by medicine merely as a component of the immune system, an organ involved in the maturation of T lymphocytes, the cells responsible for defending the body from external threats. Over time, it was believed to lose its importance, as it tends to shrink with age. But science has begun to realize that the thymus does not disappear, it simply shifts roles. Researchers like Dr. Sergio Felipe de Oliveira, a pioneer in spiritual neuroscience, have been demonstrating that the thymus has a direct connection to emotional states, energetic vitality, and self-awareness. It responds instantly to elevated emotions like gratitude and compassion, expanding physically, and it contracts in the face of fear, guilt, or self-sabotage. Studies from the HeartMath Institute also reveal that feelings of emotional coherence, when sustained through breathing and focused attention on the center of the chest, create a measurable electromagnetic resonance. This resonance impacts not only the brain, but the entire human bioenergetic field, creating what they call expanded heart coherence. The most surprising part: the thymus is located exactly between the physical heart and the base of the throat, the two centers involved in this process. And this is where it acts as a bridge, translating emotion into frequency, and frequency into physiological and vibrational impact. Science is slowly beginning to confirm what the ancients already knew. The human body is a vibrational instrument, and the thymus is one of its most subtle and most powerful notes. If the body is an instrument, then there must be a point where harmony begins to form. Thoth did not leave behind maps. He left vibrations encoded in silence, proportion, and gesture. He knew that some doorways do not open through questions, but through presence. It's not what you do that activates this center. It's the state you return to it with. Before any movement, adjust your posture as someone who remembers that the body is a temple. Your breathing deepens. Your chest opens. The field begins to recognize your arrival. Touch the space between your heart and your throat with the tips of your fingers, not as someone who presses, but as someone calling back a forgotten guardian. Close your eyes and seek not a response, but a lost frequency. Recall a moment when everything felt in place, even if it had no explanation. Thoth used to say that the invisible does not require understanding. It requires resonance, and resonance cannot be forced. It arises when you stop interfering. Stay there for a few moments, without expectations, without hurry, just listen with your whole body. It's in that receptive emptiness that something ancient begins to rise, without sound, without image, but with enough force to rewrite everything. Some teachings were never meant to be read but remembered. Thoth did not whisper formulas, he transmitted fields. And right now, it is your field that needs to learn how to listen. Listening begins with a gesture, with intentional touch. Gently place your fingers on your sternum again. Take 3 deep breaths, but this time add a detail. As you inhale, imagine the air entering not only through your lungs, but also through that central point, as if it were an invisible opening between worlds. As you exhale, release more than just air. Let go of the pressure to be someone. Let go of the roles. Let go of the story. In this moment, What vibrates there does not need your identity. It needs your presence. Now, repeat inwardly. May the truth that pulses in me find its way through. This is not a phrase of power. It is a vibrational permission. You may feel a gentle warmth, a sense of expansion, or nothing at all. But something is adjusting quietly, like a note returning to the right pitch after years out of tune. Thoth used to say that consciousness only descends when the temple is aligned. And the thymus is this hidden altar that, once activated, turns the body into a transmitter. Don't wait for something to happen, just continue. Subtle vibration doesn't announce itself, it settles. Some portals open from the inside out. You don't cross them, you emanate them. Thoth understood this. That's why he didn't offer maps, but inner paths. He knew that true awakening happens when the body stops being just matter and starts becoming language. In the final moments of this activation, bring your attention to the area between your chest and your throat. Don't visualize, perceive. Imagine this point as a silent light, like a glowing ember in slow motion, radiating through invisible layers of your field. Stay like this for a few moments, in silence, with gratitude, without trying to rush anything. Now, very slowly, open your eyes, but keep your awareness anchored in that point. Speak little, move gently. What you've just accessed is still settling. In the next few hours, listen more than you speak. Notice how people respond to your presence, how the environment reacts, how the right words seem to arrive effortlessly. This is the thymus field expanding. You don't need to repeat this process endlessly. What matters most isn't the technique, it's the vibrational continuity with which you return to this state. Thoth taught that true alchemy happens when the invisible becomes habit. And that begins when the sacred is no longer the exception, but becomes your dwelling place again. Parker had always been someone of many beginnings. He would start cycles with excitement, dive into spiritual practices, courses, techniques, but something inside him remained still. The feeling was always the same. No matter how much he learned, something essential felt just out of reach. He had discipline, willpower, even faith, but he lived as if an invisible layer stood between him and real experience. His manifestations came halfway, his states of presence didn't last, and deep down, Parker carried a lingering doubt. Am I truly accessing what matters? It was during a period of deep exhaustion that he stopped chasing formulas. He began to fall silent more often. He started breathing with more reverence, and one morning, without knowing why, he felt the urge to touch the center of his chest. The gesture was light, but something vibrated. In the days that followed, Parker repeated the same gesture, with no expectations, just presence. And over time, he began to notice small changes, not on the outside, but within. Words came out clearer, decisions flowed more easily, and his body felt less tense, as if something ancient had finally come to rest. He didn't become someone else, but for the first time, he felt whole. That's when he realized what had been missing wasn't more effort. It was connection to the forgotten center that holds everything together. The same center that Thoth had encoded in silence, waiting for someone willing to listen with the body, and not just with the eyes. The biggest obstacle to awakening the thymus is not technical difficulty. It's the subtle disbelief that shows up when the senses don't offer immediate proof. The mind has been conditioned to expect visible, measurable, instant results. And when that doesn't happen, when the body simply becomes quiet, without big revelations, the doubt arises. Is this really working? That's the point where many give up, because they expect an external impact, when the real shift is happening on another level, in the field. And the field moves through resonance, not spectacle. Doubt is understandable, but it needs to be seen for what it really is. A reflection of the old pattern that seeks control instead of surrender. Thoth taught that manifestation begins with invisible reorganization. First, the tone shifts. Then, the melody appears. When doubt comes, the answer is not to react, it's to go deeper. Return to the gesture, to the touch, to the silence, to the point. Stay, even if the mind tries to measure, even if there's no certainty. Because it is precisely when you hold the state without guarantees that the code seals. It's the steady vibration, not occasional intensity, that transforms the invisible into reality. You're not here by accident. If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you has already begun to awaken. Not an idea, not a belief, but a frequency. The thymus gland, long ignored by modern logic, now reveals itself as one of the most sensitive centers of being. It doesn't just regulate the body, it listens to the soul. It translates the invisible into presence. And when you learn to touch this center with reverence, without demand, something begins to quietly reorganize. Clarity increases, anxiety softens, intuition lights up, and, with time, life stops being survival and becomes expression once again. Thoth did not teach to inform, he taught to help you remember, because everything essential is already within you, just waiting to be reactivated. And now you know, true manifestation does not begin with willpower. It begins with alignment, and that alignment is built in the exact place where spirit meets flesh. The philosophy of Thoth lives not in books, but in those who become a bridge between the visible and the eternal. As Rumi, the poet of silence, once said, "There is a voice that doesn't use words. Listen." What you awaken in the thymus is not a gift, it is a memory. It is your truth returning to center. And when it returns, everything that was scattered finally begins to respond. If this message resonated with you, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. That helps us bring this wisdom to others who also need to remember what they carry inside. Write in the comments, "My center has started to pulse again." This phrase is more than a symbol, it is a seal of collective activation. Share this video with someone who's seeking reconnection but doesn't yet know where to begin. Sometimes, all the soul needs is a call to remember the way. Click the screen to watch another transformative video, because when the right frequency meets the right body, reality bends without resistance.